Hey everyone, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest. I am joined today by Erin Hunt. She is Water Business Group President for HDR. We're going to be talking a little bit about her background, some of her vision that she has for water in her new role. So Erin, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me. I look forward to the discussion.
Yeah, so you got this new role with HDR, the Water Business Group President, and part of the information that I saw before this is that you had quite an interesting history with water itself, kind of growing up. Could you talk about your history with water and how that kind of has informed your both your career and kind of your outlook on things as it stands now?
Sure. So I grew up in Florida and spent my childhood, water skiing across the lakes of Florida, swimming around the beaches of Florida. And like a lot of people, I probably took for granted that we were surrounded by water, but that the region and the state really had some issues related to water supply and the availability of water supply. So through my college career, I had the opportunity to intern and work on a water supply plan for the Tampa Bay region. And during that time, a lot of the communities in Tampa Bay were fighting over availability of water supply. And through that water supply plan, we developed a long-term, long-range plan to help the region address their water supply issues. And through that, I saw that the importance that access to clean drinking water, how important that was to communities, and the impact it had to our economies, our environment, and everything. And so I went back to school, and probably at that point, prior to that internship, really didn't know what I wanted to do. But after that summer, really went back with a renewed interest in the water industry, and had the opportunity after graduation to come back and finish up that water supply plan and implement some of the first phases. And what I saw is the need to, the water doesn't follow geographic and political boundaries, and that we need to work across regions to address water issues. And I think that we see that more and more every day as the issues get bigger and more severe.
That's a great segue into kind of the next question that I had, because so you're talking about, water doesn't know any bounds, and one of the things that I've been hearing a lot more recently is looking at water from that global perspective and like what lessons can we learn if we take look at water from that angle. So what are some of the things that you think about when you're thinking about water from a global perspective? What are some lessons that you think utilities could take away from that thought process?
Well, and I think it's not just utilities, but it's us as a country, and as
Oh yeah.
communities is the value of water. And I think that across the globe, there's the value in having access to safe drinking water and water supply is globally is not taken for granted. And I think that we're seeing that across the United States. And I think that's a great thing for our industry and for water as a whole, as it's being recognized more and more, the value it has and the importance it plays in our communities. I think the other thing that we're seeing globally is the need to use every possible source of water to meet our needs, and that it is really a holistic issue, and that we have to look at all facets of water to meet our long-term needs. And I also think that advanced treatment, desalination, reuse, indirect, direct potable reuse all plays into that as we look at what's happened around the globe.
Hmm. Yeah, you're the way you're talking about it reminds me of the idiom of like use the whole buffalo, like the whole buffalo approach, right? And that seems to be like the
Yeah,
growing trend for how to handle water. And yeah, it's just really fascinating to see that kind of growing over the past couple of years.
yeah, I agree, absolutely. And I think that, as we look towards the future, we talk a lot in the industry about one water, and that's something that at HDR that we have really been focused on is really furthering our focus around one water, and that we have to look across the whole water cycle and really leverage every potential facet of water to address the needs of our
Hmm.
clients.
Yeah, on that note, like looking at the future, what's the future that you do see for water, and how do you feel that HDR is going to help come into that fold?
Well, I think that as we look at water, we're um, again going back to that the value and the importance it plays in communities. So, and the need to look holistically at solutions, at issues, and how we address them. Um, that's something that we've been focused on at HDR. And I think also as a part of that is it's not just looking at water quantity and water quality, but it's looking at how we address environmental justice and equity, how we make utilities and infrastructure and sources of supply more resilient. I think those are all exciting facets of the water industry and the impacts we can have across our communities.
Yeah, sustainability and resiliency are kind of the two keywords I'm constantly hearing, especially from like EPA when we're talking about the bipartisan infrastructure law and funding. Those seem to be really key terms, and so being at the forefront of telling people, teaching people about that is going to be really useful. How big of a role do you see? Like, so you said the resiliency part. I'm curious on the sustainability part. Is that something you guys are also focusing on?
Absolutely. And that's a big initiative for us across water and really across all of our markets, and focusing on sustainability and resilient. How do we keep viable infrastructure and looking
Hmm.
into the long term for our clients? And we're not only climate change in terms of resiliency, but operational resiliency, how they, workforce and all of that is impacting the water industry, and how do we keep operational resiliency focused for our utility clients.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I thank you so much for taking the time with us today. I really appreciate you taking this time, and congratulations on your
Absolutely.
new role too with HDR. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the coming years, and especially under some of your leadership. So, for everyone who's watching, thank you so much for watching. And to get some more information like this, check out the video description below. We've got links to our video playlist so you can learn some more. We also will have some links to some resources on our website, and we'll also have something down there for HDR. So, check it all out, and we'll catch you with the next one.
Thank you, Bob.